Hello there, Logic Language Learners. So this is a video in the A-level exam series which is completely relevant and useful for anybody learning French, but is particularly targeting those doing those exams. Same as always, if you've not subscribed, I'd really appreciate it if you did. If you need to contact me directly, either write in the comments below or contact me at logiclanguagelearning@gmail.com or Logic Language Learning on Facebook. Right, so if you go into the description underneath for today's video, you will find a link, and what we're going to be doing is going through the essay titles from one of the examination boards, a good examination board AQA, for the A-level. Okay, this is completely relevant for anybody who wants to learn French generally, and all the vocab and the grammar that we're using is completely useful. It's just targeted specifically as well to those topics. So the topic we're talking about today, we're going to go one by one through those lists of essay titles. I'll do one every couple of days. It depends how much time I have. To remind you, those of you who are doing A-level, that if you want any private coaching, to contact me on the details I've already given. So the question is, if you read below, so à votre avis, pourquoi est-ce que la vie des célébrités est si intéressante pour les jeunes de votre âge? Voyez-vous des dangers et des aspects positifs de s'intéresser aux célébrités? So, any interesting pronunciation points there just while we're there? À votre avis, pourquoi est-ce que la vie des célébrités est si intéressante, feminine, because it's la vie, pour les jeunes de votre âge? Voyez-vous des dangers, not danger, we don't pronounce the R, do we? There's no E. Et des aspects, we don't pronounce the CTS because there's no E. Positif, masculine form of positive, de s'intéresser aux célébrités. So, when we come to A-level, what's the main thing we've got to do? We've got to answer the question properly. So what literally can we try and do with most questions? There's normally going to be 3 points to an A-level question, or 2 as a minimum, and that is in the marking guide. So forget whether your French is entirely perfect. We want to start trying to do 2 things. We want to start hitting correct French, but also answering the question. And any of you that do another humanities subject like English, history, media, anything where you've got to write an essay about something, you will understand this, okay? So what literally are the 3 parts of the question? So in your opinion, why is the life of celebrities so interesting to young people of your age? Notice it's to young people of your age, so you've got to mention the fact that it's young people of your age. I'll say that again. Do you see any dangers or positive aspects in being interested in celebrities? So basically that is actually another that's another part. You've got somebody's trying to contact me. You've got, do you see anything positive, or do you see anything useful? So you could kind of, on a bit of scrap paper, which will always be provided, divide your question up before we get to the French. So we've got the why, is the one bit, we've got the positive, and we've got the negative. I mean, that's just wording it differently. We've got the positive, we've got the negative, we've got the why. Yeah, that won't always be the same, but that is pretty much what's going on in this video. So what you need to do here is, before you even start thinking in French and getting bogged down, is think of a few reasons. Just throw out what you think. And one thing I like to do, or encourage my students to do, is a mood board, is a board of one word, okay? So for example, if I asked you why people are so interested in celebrities, do you think, at your age, okay? You can throw out words. So just throw out words like money, or fashion, or lifestyle, or, cars. Okay, write down what buzzwords that for you mean why young people are interested in those people, or foreign, or then American, or whatever, okay? Something positive about it, aspirational, fitness related, yeah, environmental campaign, okay? There's some people who, lose a great deal of weight, they talk about how they did it in a healthy way. Let's talk about the negative reasons, okay? Anorexia, girls being valued purely for what they look like in a bikini, selfies instead of degrees. You know, negative reasons why you think people being obsessed with this kind of thing is not great. Sounds silly, whatever your opinion is, write these buzzwords down, and that will then give you a much better idea of what you've got to do. Now, next step, look at the time you have in the exam, look at how long you've got for it, or even for homework, how many words you are roughly meant to do. So if you are supposed to answer this in 250 words or 500 words or whatever, knock off 10 for your introduction, knock off 10 for your conclusion, and roughly work out that you are going to have to write a series of sentences. So if you've got 250 words and you've taken off 10 and 10, a sentence in French is on average with a student available is between 7 and 10. So if we go 10 for a long one, so if we took that down to 230, that means we've then got 23 sentences left. Okay, so we're then dividing that between the 3 sections, so you understand what I mean. You basically then, they're not always going to be an exact equal amount, but that's roughly what you've got to do. So you've then got to think, right, I'm coming up with however many sentences for each of those sections. So that's all really boring and really obvious, but I really have to make that point because that is what is going to get you the top marks as well as the French. Okay, right, next step, and then we'll talk about what we're going to be saying. Think about little tricks and things you want to talk about in your introduction. Okay, so, à votre avis, pourquoi est-ce que la vie des célébrités est si intéressante pour les jeunes de votre âge? Voyez-vous des dangers et des aspects positifs de s'intéresser aux célébrités? Right, okay, so, always start with a introduction which is going to refer to pretty much the general direction of where you're going, okay? Or is going to acknowledge the question. So have an idea of what you're going to say and try and give a balanced argument. So if overall you were like, yeah, there's good and there's bad, and I can see why people are interested, that's fine. If you think, actually no, it's fantastic, whatever you think, try and get that across in your introduction. So for example, why young people, so you could start with it's true that young people are interested in this, or it's interesting that young people are interested in that, okay? So instead of just start coming off with young people are interested in this because, okay, so acknowledge the question, just a nice, gentle, basic introduction. It's true that young people are interested in celebrities and there are several reasons for and against this. Fine, just a nice, gentle introduction to let the examiner know you are going to stagger your answers, you are going to have a nice structured essay. So how would we say that? So what's my other tip with exams? Use as much of the vocabulary as you can get from the question. So if you look at that question again, and it will be written underneath, à votre avis, pourquoi est-ce que la vie des célébrités est si intéressante pour les jeunes de votre âge? Voyez-vous des dangers et des aspects positifs de s'intéresser aux célébrités? Now you've got 2 ways of using the word to be interested in there. I've talked about this before, there are numerous ways of saying interested. Let's have a quick look. So let's say young people are interested in celebrities. So you can either say les jeunes sont intéressés par, so we've got the young people are interested by option. We've got young people, so that's actually not down there. What we've got is celebrities are interesting, donc les célébrités sont intéressantes, okay? Or if it was something like sport is interesting, le sport est intéressant. We've then got the third method, which is actually the one that's down there at the end, which is when you have a reflexive verb. So somebody, reflexive, interest, to. Yeah, can you see? De s'intéresser aux célébrités. And then the fourth method would be the celebrity thing, interests the young people, when you use that as an active verb. So let's say I was talking about sport. J'aime le sport. I like sport. So, je m'intéresse au sport. I'm interested to the sport. We have to use reflexive and the to the. Sport interests me. Le sport m'intéresse. Je suis intéressé, interested par le sport. Le sport est intéressant. Sport is interesting. Yeah, okay, you've got those different ways of doing that. Right, so so start with an introduction to the question. Oui, c'est vrai que la vie des célébrités est intéressante pour les jeunes de notre âge. Yeah, change it round. It's true that so and so and so and so, okay? Now, quick point at that point at that stage in the game. Quick point at that point. What could we get in straight away that's going to impress the examiner as subjunctive? When we have a neutral sentence. Yeah, a neutral equals subjunctive. Remember, what gives us a neutral? An it is, il est, or c'est. So yes, it's true that is not actually going to give us a subjunctive because it's one of the more the blander adjectives. But as you know, if you don't understand why, go to the videos, look at subjunctives. So if I said it's crazy that, or it's fantastic that, or it's interesting that, okay, or it's weird that, any other it is. So you could do this with say, or in perhaps more an essay style, il est. Yeah. So if I said it's interesting that celebrities are that young people are interested. Okay. So young people are interested would be les jeunes sont intéressés. It's crazy that young people are interested. Il est dingue, or il est fou, or il est bizarre que les jeunes soient intéressés. Be interested. So you're going to have your S-O-I-E-N-T subjunctive R. Okay? Think about this. If you're using a verb which is an a verb, an ER verb, although I don't like saying it, you don't want to be using that verb in that method to find, because it's not going to demonstrate a subjunctive unless you said we are. Yeah? So for example, if you said it's interesting we like, c'est intéressant que nous aimions, yeah, that's going to give you the subjunctive, isn't it? Because you're going to hear it. If you're saying it's interesting young people like, c'est intéressant que les jeunes aiment, okay, you're not going to hear the subjunctive because the subjunctive is the same as the normal verb for je, tu, il and il. So if we worded it with it's interesting that young people are interested, whatever, you know, it's strange that young people are interested, it allows you to get the verb to be in. C'est intéressant que les jeunes soient, okay? So this is a really clever point. When you're answering exams and essays and questions and orally, whatever, be mindful and make sure you get in either a verb which will show off your subjunctive or a conjugation that will. So use a nous or a vous. Okay? So c'est intéressant. C'est vrai que is not going to give you a subjunctive. Yes, so let's say it's weird that young people are interested. Il est bizarre que les jeunes soient si intéressés par, ou il est bizarre que les célébrités soient si intéressantes. Celebrities are so interesting. For young people of our age, pour les jeunes de notre âge, okay? Yeah, don't say why, and just say, so the next bit was, do you see any dangers and positive aspects? You've already got the verb there. There's other words you could use for that. Avantage, inconvénient, spelled like inconvenient with an S on the end. So, and there are certainly, il y a certainement des dangers et des aspects positifs, okay, de s'intéresser aux célébrités. Okay, now, next level up. If you've got somebody s'intéressing to something, whenever you want to use a verb to something, what is our shortcut we can use to show off? The letter E, the letter Y, the Y. So I'm thinking to something, in other words in English I'm thinking of it, je pense à toi. We can say j'y pense. So people who are thinking of it, c'est bizarre, you've already mentioned celebrities, so les jeunes qui s'y intéressent, S''y intéresse. This will show me in the first sentence as a marker, wow, this person knows their grammar. Okay? So, let's look at some of the reasons why we could go with, and we're going to talk about these, so let's look at some of the reasons that the examining board have mentioned. And all of these are fine, it doesn't matter which one you use can use your own ideas as long as we are answering the question on why at your age, and good and bad. So, love of gossip, yeah? Ils aiment le potin, okay? Le potin, P-O-T-I-N, is gossip, okay? How would you say, if you don't know the word for gossip, they like to know what other people are doing. Ils aiment savoir ce que, what, les autres font, okay? The influence of the media, okay? Okay, now if you didn't know the word media, which is média, or médiatisé is mediatized, you could say l'influence, it's a CE word, so get into the habit of knowing that CE words are normally going to be the same in English and in French. So the influence of the media, l'influence de la presse, yeah, ou l'influence du média, ou l'influence des pages internet, des sites internet. If you didn't know one word, you can go around it. l'influence des blogs, blog is the same word, okay, whatever you're going to do, CE words, so get into the habit of knowing that CE words are normally going to be the same in English and in French. So the influence of the media, l'influence de la presse, yeah, ou l'influence du média, ou l'influence des pages internet, des sites internet. If you didn't know one word, you can go around it. L'influence des blogs, blog is the same word, okay, whatever you're going to do. If you didn't know the word for media, you didn't know the word for press, you can say the influence of television, radio and internet. I mean, you could just say that, and newspapers, l'influence des journaux, de l'internet, de la télé, whatever's going on, you can find a way around the problem, okay? But that would just use it more words. They are role models for many people. Ils sont les bons exemples ou les mauvais exemples. Ils sont les modèles, which doesn't mean just, you know, Kate Moss, Naomi Campbell style model. That would be a mannequin. Although you do say top model in French. So ils sont les modèles pour plusieurs personnes, for several people, for many people, pour beaucoup de personnes, or pour beaucoup. The desire to be rich and famous. Young people have a desire to be rich and famous. All I'm doing is reading the ones that are underneath in the description, okay, the possible answers. So, le désir d'être riche est bien connu, fameux, célèbre. 3 words, bien connu, well known, riche, célèbre, fameux, famous. Interest in clothes and fashion. Now, here you've got another way of showing off. So let's say they're interested in fashion and let's say they're interested in clothes. One is singular, one is formal. I'm interested in fashion. Je m'intéresse à la. So subject, so reflexive, then the to. You've got to put the reflexive before, the to afterwards. Je m'intéresse à la mode or je m'intéresse aux vêtements, A-U-X, vêtements. Accent on vêtements on the E. La mode m'intéresse, fashion interests me, les vêtements m'intéressent. Notice if it's la mode m'intéresse, you're going to have a double SE because it's just one fashion. Or les vêtements m'intéressent, clothes interest me, and ENT because it's they, yeah, be careful. Je suis intéressé par la mode ou les vêtements, doesn't make any difference. Yeah, so all these, la mode est intéressante, feminine, yeah. Les vêtements sont intéressants. So masculine plural, yeah? So all these different ways, you've got to think of the grammar on both sides, okay? It can help campaigns, for example, environmental. So, ça peut aider, that can help. Ça pourrait aider, that could help. Notice how easily we went from a can help to a could help. So notice how easy that is to show off another bit of your grammar. So, pour is your future block, P-O-U-R-R. Okay, we don't say pouvoir. So that could help, ça pourrait aider. What's another way of saying that could help? That could be useful. Ça pourrait être utile. That could encourage, ça pourrait encourager. You're in A-level and you're talking about something really open. So whatever word you don't know, there's another way of doing it. You think of all the different ways of saying it in English. Ça pourrait nous encourager, that could encourage us. If you're talking about young people, you know, encourage them to take an interest, to s'intéresser aux campagnes, to campaigns, spelled like the word for countryside, AUX, to the environmental or écologique, more likely green. Okay. What else have we got as other options here? Just one second. Yeah, so it gives young people ambition. So ambition, I-O-N. We've got to be very, 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 very used to using I-O-Ns. Most of them are the same. So that gives ambition to young people. Okay, so that motivates, ça leur donne de l'ambition. Yeah, we have to have a the before it. Ça motive les jeunes. Like if you do another word for ambition, well, that motivates. What's the trick with motivate? Or any verb which is an Asian. We find the Asian, I don't mean Asian like Chinese, Japanese, etc. I mean A-T-I-O-N. We find that word in English, so motivation. We then make it French, motivation. Yeah, and then from motivation, same spelling as motivation, we find the E. So motivation, A-T-I-O-N, is just going to go motiver. So transportation, transporter. Communication, communiquer. So that motivates them, ça les motive, ça leur donne de la motivation. Some people have no talent, so some celebrities are bad role model. Il y a certains célébrités, il y a plusieurs célébrités, il y a des célébrités, there are some of them, il y en a who haven't got any talent, qui n'ont pas de talent, qui n'ont aucun talent. Remember, we can always use aucun when we haven't got a not. Obsession can be damaging. So, nocif is the word for harmful. N-O-C-I-F. N-O-C-I-F. Nocive, feminine. Nuire is the verb which comes from that, but or endommager is the damage. Okay. Or there are risks, if you don't know how to say damaging, il y a des risques, okay? So, good, so these are the kind of things that you're going to be talking about. I'm now just going to talk through some of the things I think you kind of guys should be saying at your age for this kind of stuff. And it's just about showing both sides, okay? So it's just some sample questions, okay? So, and some tricks to get in. So, in no particular order, let's take some of the ones we've done, okay? If you're going to go with one and then another, you're going to show a contrast. So don't just do all the goods and all the against. It would be good to sort of show a bit of contrast. So whilst, so lorsque, or although, bien que, plus subjunctive. So although it's useful for certain campaigns, bien que ça soit, bien que plus subjunctive, utile pour certaines campagnes, or although there are some, bien qu'il y ait, subjunctive, AIT, bien que take subjunctive, so not il y a, but il y ait. You get that in an essay, particularly week 1 of your lower sixth, and the teacher's just thinking, wow, although there are, bien qu'il y ait, yeah, where you'd normally write il y a, your subjunctive of have. Bien qu'il y ait plusieurs exemples de célébrités qui jouent un rôle positif, who play a positive role, there are lots who don't do anything. Il y en a beaucoup qui ne font rien. So you could say there are lots, il y a beaucoup, at your level now there are lots of them, il y en a beaucoup qui ne font rien. Okay? It's possible that, whenever you've got a it's possible sentence, ça se peut. Nice little expression, that itself can. Ça se peut plus subjunctive. Do you see how I'm giving you all these things? Ça se peut que ça soit nocif pour les jeunes, or it's possible that they are, ça se peut qu'ils soient un mauvais exemple. So do you notice how when we use these subjunctive phrases, we keep falling back on the verb to be and the verb to have? Because the verb to be and the verb to have are in so many compound phrases, so you've really got to get your soit, soyons, soyez, soit down, ayons. What could you say? All young people want to be rich and famous. Tous les jeunes veulent être riches et fameux. Okay? It's logical that, c'est logique que. Now, with the minute you're using an it's or il est in an essay, okay? All young people. Now, what could we say? Instead of saying veulent, okay, the subjunctive would be veuille, V-E-U-I-L-L-E-N-T. But what could we say? What's another way of saying want? To have desire. So try and use compound. So I want, je veux, or j'ai envie de. So it's logical that all young people want to be rich and famous. C'est logique que tous les jeunes aient envie d'être riches et fameux. So A-I-E-N-T, subjunctive, A-I-E-N-T. Let's do some more going backward and forward, okay? We've got a while, whilst and although, bien que plus subjunctive. So let's say some celebrities are bad model examples. Certaines célébrités so are or provide, fournissent, from the verb fournir, de mauvais exemples. However, what's a nice going backward? Pourtant, il y en a certaines célébrités, negative point. However, par contre, P-A-R-C-O-N-T-R-E, or certaines célébrités, go to an opposite side, go from a negative to a positive to a negative. Ceci dit, that said, C-E-C-I-D-I-T, ceci dit. Good, so try and get one in going between the two things. Let's go back to the first part of the question, whatever you wanted to say, that was talking about why young people. So why do you think young people are impressionable and vulnerable? Whatever, just get that out as a point, okay? So it's easy to, je pense que c'est facile de, Okay? So whenever you're giving an opinion, I think it's easy to... Je pense que c'est facile de... Je pense que c'est... les jeunes sont vulnérables, vulnerable, or sont naïfs. Can I remind you that most words which end in a VE in English will be an F in French, okay, if it's masculine. Don't forget the S for the plural. But again, I think that is a neutral expression, okay? If you bring in emotion, so what was our other thing that we have a subjunctive? We have neutral, let's do another one, we have emotion, okay? If you bring in emotion, so often people ask me, but why is it subjunctive? Because you've got it is brilliant that, which is a neutral expression, or it's fantastic that, they think that's emotion. It's kind of an emotional sentence, but it's neutral. Neutral means it begins with an it is or an it's. There's no I, you, he, she, etc. So, I'm sad that, or it makes me sad. The verb doesn't need to be me, it just needs to tell me that I'm sad. So it can either be je suis triste que les jeunes soient, subjunctive, or that makes me sad, ça me rend triste que, the that is doing the verb there, that is making me sad. That me, ça me rend triste que, or ça m'attriste, the verb attrister, to make sad. So ça m'attriste que les jeunes, whatever, soient aussi intéressés. So another way to get our subjunctive in would be to have an emotional sentence. So rather than saying, I think young people are crazy to follow Kim Kardashian, you can either go with, it is crazy that young people follow Kim Kardashian, and in doing that you are using a neutral sentence. You are saying it is, yeah, which is neutral, which would give me subjunctive. Or you can say an emotional thing, I think, instead of saying, okay, so instead of saying young people do something, give your opinion. It makes me happy that, it makes me sad that, it's, it motivates me that, I'm enthusiastic that, about whatever you're saying that's going to talk about your feelings other than just I think, or I believe, or I am of the opinion, je pense, je crois, je suis de l'opinion, okay? I agree, je suis d'accord que, or I don't agree, je ne suis pas d'accord. All your traditional GCSE agreement, opinion-giving vocab, keep it, but knock it up a level. So put in a bit of emotion. Yeah, I'm moved, je suis ému, ému. I'm shocked, je suis choqué, je suis bouleversé, I'm bowled over. Que, I'm gobsmacked, I'm open-mouthed, je suis surpris que, je suis époustouflé que, Kim Kardashian soit une vedette de whatever, a star of, okay? Good, so that's a little bit more grammar that we can put into this. Some final sentences, okay? I'm just going to talk now, saying some stuff about it, okay? So, recently we have seen lots of people who have become famous on YouTube. So, récemment, nous avons vu beaucoup de personnes qui sont devenues, être verb, who have become. Notice I will need a S on the end of sont devenus because there's an être auxiliary. Bien connu ou célèbre ou fameux. Thanks to YouTube rather than on YouTube. We could have grâce à YouTube. Yeah, two accents. There's one on the grâce, there's one on the à. YouTube, okay. Often they will do videos with makeup, souvent they will do, ils feront les vidéos, or ils font, they do les vidéos. They make themselves up, ils se maquillent. They talk about computer games, ils parlent des jeux vidéo. They talk about computer games, they talk about makeup, whatever these people do on YouTube. Leur vidéo s'adresse, addresses itself, or leur vidéo s'agisse de, are about. Yeah, so try and get in, like I always say, if you want to get an A star at A level, soit and so. Get in as many reflexives and as many subjunctives. So, leur vidéo s'adresse, what are we saying? Their videos talk about makeup, donc leur vidéo s'adresse souvent le sujet, aborde le sujet du maquillage. And I can see why young people want to copy them. Je peux voir pourquoi les jeunes veulent les copier. or it's easy to see, c'est facile à voir pourquoi les jeunes veulent les copier. So basically, we've got to be careful of our word or our word order, our word count. But you know, there are clever to increase the complexity of what you're saying. For certain people who have problems with their lives, okay, pour certaines personnes, feminine, certaines personnes who have problems, so qui ont les problèmes, or who have problematic lives, qui ont une vie problématique, or who have to encounter problems, qui doivent faire face à, or qui doivent affronter. Whatever you're doing, you can take your sentence and you can make it more interesting, okay? I can understand why it would be a source of amusement. Je peux bien comprendre, or I don't have difficulty understanding why. Je n'ai pas du mal à comprendre. Yeah, notice we then got in a compound. Pourquoi, pour ces jeunes, for these young people, these videos représentent une source, S-O-U-R-C-E, same as, so like I was saying earlier, a CE word, une source d'amusement, of fun, of something lighter, de quelque chose plus léger pour les jeunes. Good. I hope this has been a good basic introduction one. I won't make the same points every single time about how and what we've got to do. I will briefly refer to it, divide it into three, try and get in some subjunctive, try and get in some other tenses, try and get in some reflexive. So this is more of a structural one than an actual vocabulary grammar one, than a vocabulary one per se. This is quite an easier one, okay? Some vocab for you on the topic just to finish. See if you remember it from the session. So an example. Exemple, a good influence, une bonne influence, role models, les modèles, non, rôle modèle, ou les exemples, a good example, mauvais exemple, bon exemple, to damage, nuire ou endommager, environmental problems, les problèmes environnementaux, AUX, because obviously it's masculine, or what was I going to say? They're interested in fashion. Ils s'intéressent à la mode, or la mode coming that way, or par la mode, or la mode est intéressante, or whatever we're doing. All the four different ways we talked about with them. What else did we talk about? For some vocabulary. First of all, tout d'abord, on the other hand, par contre. That said, ceci dit, C-E-C-I-D-I-T. However, pourtant, they have no talent. Ils n'ont aucun talent, or ils n'ont pas de. Yeah, if you haven't got something, you need de. They're vulnerable, ils sont vulnérables. They're famous thanks to, ils sont fameux grâce à, or negative because of, we didn't do, à cause de. It's fascinating that young people are interested. C'est fascinant, so notice the neutral, il est fascinant, que les jeunes soient, notice the subjunctive. It fascinates me that, it's still giving an emotion, il me fascine que les jeunes soient. Okay, good, good, good. So let me know what else you would find useful for this kind of thing. I don't want to do the whole thing for you. Remember to divide it into the bits, look at every question, think I'm going to get all the options in. Great, so nice little half hour on this essay topic. I will do another essay topic very soon.